prominent Chinese visitor recently described Jackson Hole as one of the most beautiful environments in the world. That visitor was Shi Dingwan, the elder statesman of U.S.-Chinese energy-environmental cooperation. The comment was made in the course of a series of meetings which brought U.S. and Chinese policymakers and technical experts together in Jackson Hole and in China to respond to mutual concerns over the environmental consequences of energy use in their two countries. The meetings were organized by the Jackson Hole Center for Global Affairs. Mr. Shi, Secretary General of China's Ministry of Science and Technology, served as co-chair of the meetings with the Honorable John F. Turner. A native of Jackson Hole, Mr. Turner's responsibilities as Assistant Secretary of State for International Environmental Affairs made him the top U.S. official for the global environment. This is the story of what those meetings were about, why they were important, and what they achieved. Most scientists, many policymakers and business leaders, and much of the general public are increasingly concerned over recent and projected increases in the temperature of the Earth. After remaining at relatively constant levels for the first 900 years of the past millennium, temperatures in the northern hemisphere have increased by over 1 degree Celsius during the past 100 years. The effects of just this 1 degree rise in temperature can be seen in the shrinkage of the polar ice cap during the past quarter century. These rising temperatures in the northern hemisphere and elsewhere coincide with rising concentrations in the Earth's atmosphere of carbon dioxide and other gases. As these gases become diffused, they have the effect of trapping the Earth's heat, as if the planet were a giant greenhouse. Rising concentrations of carbon dioxide coincide with increased use of coal and other fossil fuels by the nations of the world. Presently, the United States is the largest emitter of CO2. In another 20 years, however, China is projected to overtake the United States as the leading source of these emissions. The reason for this is coal. China relies on coal for over 70% of its total energy supply. China presently leads the United States in both coal production and consumption. These recent and projected changes in global patterns of fossil fuel use, carbon dioxide emissions, and temperatures of the Earth have consequences for us locally. Here in the northern Rockies, a signature of global climate change has been retreating glaciers. Grinnell Glacier in Glacier National Park has shrunk to a watery remnant of its former self. In Jackson Hole, the Teton Glacier has shrunk dramatically over the past 40 years. These realities illustrate why climate change is of concern to all of us. To address these concerns, Mr. Turner welcomed Mr. Shi to Jackson Hole for the first meeting of the U.S.-China Clean Energy Initiative. As Mr. Turner's hometown, Jackson provided not only a beautiful and inspiring backdrop for this first meeting, but also a way to demonstrate hospitality in the spirit of Chinese culture and values. Other Chinese guests included a delegation headed by Vice Governor Nu Renliang of Shanxi Province, China's largest coal-producing province. Wu Lianfan, Deputy Secretary General of Chongqing, led a delegation representing that city of 30 million people. Joining Mr. Turner in other leadership roles were David Wendt, President of the Jackson Hole Center for Global Affairs, and Senator Grant Larson, Majority Floor Leader of the Wyoming State Senate. One of the outcomes of the first meeting was a proposed partnership between Shanxi Province and Wyoming. Like Shanxi in China, Wyoming is the largest coal-producing state in the U.S. At the close of the meeting, Shanxi's Vice Governor Nu invited Senator Larson to lead a delegation of Wyoming business leaders, state government officials, and technical experts to visit Shanxi Province to discuss common opportunities and concerns relating to coal production and use. This became the next step of the U.S.-China Clean Energy Initiative. In response to Vice Governor New's invitation, the Jackson Hole Center organized a delegation to be led by Senator Larson in a visit to Shanxi Province. The delegation of 17 included policymakers, business leaders, and technical experts. Any doubt about the urgency of the visit was quickly dispelled by the pollution they encountered upon their arrival, first in Beijing and then in Shanxi's capital city of Taiwan. Taiwan is one of the most polluted cities in all of China, owing largely to the emissions from the region's abundant coal reserves it uses to generate electricity, supply energy to factories, and heat homes. Meeting in Taiwan with top government officials of Shanxi Province, Senator Larson and other members of the delegation heard Governor Zhang Baosheng describe the energy and environmental challenges that plague the province.
Cleaner energy is not just a Shanxi problem. It is not just a Wyoming problem, but it is a world problem. We are very pleased to be here.
我们非常高兴能到太阳。
And we hope that by working with your government and our government and with the Jackson Hole Center for Global Affairs, that all of us may benefit from this conference.
In China, business begins with exchanging gifts and extending other courtesies. Symbolizing the state-to-state relationship, Senator Larson pinned a Wyoming state flag on Governor Zhang's lapel, and Vice Governor New and Senator Larson signed a memorandum of understanding setting forth a number of areas of intended cooperation between the two states. Opening ceremonies were followed by panel discussions involving members of the delegation, Shanxi government officials, and over 100 enterprise managers, technical experts, and university researchers from Shanxi Province.
The Jackson Hole Center for Global Affairs was pleased to organize our first meeting last fall on clean energy, which Vice Governor New attended, and now to organize this delegation to visit you here in Shanxi Province.
Any other questions for anyone?
还有其他什么问题呢？可以来自中国媒体系。
Chinese participants from Shanxi Province had many questions and observations.
我们山西目前那个煤炭开始努力吧，做一些粉尘、烟条，然后
火电体系中，空气呢却这个基础能占多大的比重？
But true economic development means a balance between cleaner air and more tons of steel based on the maximum benefits to the people.
Then it was on to a series of breakout discussions. Issues included mitigating the environmental impact of coal combustion, recovering and utilizing methane vented from mines, and ensuring other means of mining safety.
Search for search for optimum excess O2. Look at see if you can control excess O2 to minimize.
如果你能够控制的这个控制氧气，你就可能把这个降低。
The purpose of these smaller group sessions was to share and compare experiences and data, and to identify and explore opportunities and needs for cooperation.
It's really our first time we've been running this.
How much you spend? How many money?
I see China as fertile ground for a lot of great work to improve life safety for miners.
But the members of the delegation didn't just talk about Shanxi's energy and environmental problems. They saw them with their own eyes. Through a series of site visits to coal mines, power generating plants, and other industrial facilities, members of the delegation witnessed the seriousness with which provincial government officials and enterprise managers were addressing these issues. The first site visit was to a large-scale heavy machinery plant, one of the first to participate in an emissions trading system, an approach to pollution control which has yielded significant benefits in the United States. Instead of all plants being required to cut back their emissions by equal amounts, the system allots emissions reductions targets on a plant-by-plant basis. This heavy machinery plant was able to participate in such a trade by exceeding its target and selling its excess credits to another plant which failed to meet its target. Members of the delegation also visited a power plant which, at 1,275 megawatts of capacity, was the largest thermal power plant in all of China. This plant, too, was able to exceed its emissions reductions targets, partly by replacing older, less efficient generators with more modern units, and also through conservation and distribution of the heat generated as a byproduct of power production. This approach to energy efficiency is often referred to as combined heat and power.
Mr. Chair, General Manager of the power plant. He's going to give you a brief inspection of this.
The delegation's visit to the Yongchan coal mine provided a good illustration of the challenges of methane utilization. Methane is a highly explosive gas found in coal mines which must be vented from the mines in order for miners to be able to enter them safely. At the same time, methane is a greenhouse gas with 27 times the heat-trapping capacity of carbon dioxide. Therefore, simply to release this dangerous gas into the atmosphere addresses mine safety concerns, but fails to reduce emissions which produce global warming. At the Yongchan coal mine, the members of the delegation witnessed a controlled methane explosion. Mine officials explained how for each ton of coal mined, as much as 30 cubic meters of methane must be drained from the mines. The mining operation Yongchan is able to recover more than 1/4 of these releases, for a total of 200 million cubic meters per year. This captured methane is utilized for other purposes, such as heating of apartments in the nearby city of Yongchan. Mine officials also plan to install gas-fired power generating equipment fueled by methane to supplement the operation's existing coal-fired power generating units. Yongchan's success in achieving these levels of methane recovery and plans to utilize methane on an even more intensive basis are an indication of China's commitment to moving in the direction of energy conservation, mine safety, and pollution reduction. The commitment to energy conservation and pollution reduction was also evident in a visit to the Taiwan coal gasification plant, where the province is investing in a significant expansion and upgrade of an existing coke-making facility. Coke, which is used in refining iron ore into steel, is produced when coal is heated and gasified in large ovens such as these. The modernization of this facility will make it possible to make use of the coal waste which will otherwise be discarded. Instead of accumulating in large piles where it creates dust emissions, contaminates surface and groundwater, and is subject to spontaneous combustion, this waste coal will now be put back into production at the rate of 6 tons per day. Modernization of the facility will also make more of the gas produced as a byproduct of the coke-making process available for heating homes and apartments in the city. Increased utilization of city gas was one of the principal priorities indicated by Vice Governor New in the first meeting of the project in Jackson Hole. Achieving this goal will also require pricing reforms to bring the price of gas into line with its market value. A large red banner welcomed the delegation to the Shanxi Coking Coal Company, one of China's conglomerates employing 150,000 workers involved in coal mining, coke making, chemical and electrical power production, and equipment manufacture.
I'm pleased to say that our Memorandum of Understanding covered cooperation in all of the areas of the Shanxi Coking Coal Group Company that Mr. Du explained, including clean and efficient coke production and electric power production,
包括清洁、炼焦和发电，
coal conversion and advanced chemical conversion from coal,
以及煤的加工和转换，
and coal bed methane and coal mine methane utilization and development.
以及井下煤层气和地下煤层气的利用。
In addition, Vice Governor New added one item to the original draft MOU, and that item was coal mining safety.
那么牛省长呢，还为我们原来提出的一个备忘录的草本上呢，增加了一项内容呢，就是煤矿安全方面的合作。
And so I'm pleased to say that all of the members of our delegation represent organizations, business companies, research organizations that have expertise and
这一
capabilities.
次我们怀俄明州的清洁能源代表团来我们山西焦煤集团的，我们非常欢迎，而且也希望在煤炭的提选加工、清洁能源生产以及这个劣质煤的利用，包括煤层气的利用、瓦斯的利用这些方面呢，和我们美国的这个怀俄明州以及有关的企业进行广泛的合作。所以我们现在最感兴趣的就是，如果说我们怀俄明州的企业在采煤、选煤、焦化、电力这些设备的制造和它的技术呢，可以和我们的下属的一个基建设备制造公司来进行合作制造。那么山西是一个煤炭大省，中国也是一个煤炭大国，煤炭设备包括它的清洁生产的设备的需求量是很大，市场是很大的。所以希望我们之间的加强合作，优势互补，实现双赢。
for us to get an overall view of the coal and the energy production of Shanxi. So once again, we are here to learn and to see if we can find areas of cooperation as both our nations strive for a cleaner and better environment. All of us have been struck by the warmness, friendliness, and the sincerity of the Chinese people and the warm reception that we have been given.
祝愿我们代表团在山西访问期间圆满成功，祝在座的各位身体健康，谢谢。
So may you have a very successful visit in Shanxi province and may you have good health. Thank you.
final visit to some nearby temples solidified the ties of friendship and trust which had been developed in the course of the visit. In China, personal relations are the basis for business dealings. No wonder then when Steve Duer, Executive Director of the Jackson Hole Chamber of Commerce, met with Cheng Zia, Chief Economist of the Shanxi Development and Reform Commission, their first order of business was to get to know each other. With a growing number of international experts motivated to work together on this project, the Jackson Hole Center for Global Affairs convened its third meeting in Jackson Hole. Having learned more about the energy and environmental challenges of Shanxi Province, participants were eager to explore means of cooperation in response to these challenges. U.S. Co-Chair John Turner again welcomed Chinese Co-Chair Shi Dingwan back to Jackson Hole for these discussions.
Welcome back to my home in Jackson Hole. Pleased to announce to this group this morning, appropriate here in Wyoming, that I'm able to announce that China is going to be a founding member of an exciting new initiative that we're calling Methane to Market Partnership. But the United States and China and some other key countries will look at the whole effort of methane, which many of you know is the second major component of greenhouse gases. If you look at its ability to trap heat and influence, it's 20 times more potent and devastating than carbon dioxide. Hoping China will join and become a partner in what we're calling Future Gen, but this is a $1 billion program which we hope will result in the world's first zero-emission commercial level coal-fired power plant. What a breakthrough that would be for
agree that these are wonderful opportunities through the transferability of technology and know-how to help China leapfrog over some middle technologies to advanced technologies which are only now emerging, and thereby to avoid many of the problems of pollution that we've struggled with.
We will then identify tasks for us in terms of science and technology.
那么在我们所研究的这些问题当中呢，尽管有很多，但是我们都一致认为啊，有关能源的问题、资源的问题和环境的问题，是我们面向未来发展的最紧要、最突出的问题。
It seems to me that there are 5 key goals. Promote wise and efficient use of current energy sources. To promote efficient, long-term transition to an energy system that depends less on petroleum and natural gas and more on renewable energy and environmentally safe use of coal. Specifically, to reduce the threat of global climate change by lessening the emissions of climate-forcing gases such as methane and CO2. To protect our populations from levels of pollutants that harm their health and, just as importantly, reduce their enjoyment of life. And finally, to protect our natural environment from short and long-run deterioration, to improve life for current people and to give the future for
我是这样认为啊，山西现在的环境的问题非常严重，在未来5年要解决它不可能，也不现实。我举一个例子，我的现在的焦炉煤气的排放量，每年就是80亿立方。那个它不仅仅破坏了空气的质量，而且呢也是宝贵的资源得到了造成了很大的。如果这些现实的问题我们不认真研究和对待的话，我们如果简单的在这里向美国朋友说5年我的排放量要降低多少，降低多少。再举一个例子，我们现在刚才我讲到我们正在建设的电厂有1000万千瓦，我们现在正在运行的，从50年代到现在正在运行的电厂是1500万千瓦，它的排污 它的环境的除尘脱硫，它这个问题啊解决的都不是很好。再举一个例子，山西的煤炭的煤矸石，就是刚才说的这叫美国朋友叫劣质煤，我们叫煤矸石，我们叫废煤，理论是吧？咱们叫煤矸石，它叫劣质煤。这个煤矸石的现在我们的堆积啊，现在是10亿吨左右。我刚才举的这3个方面的例子，都是我们迫切需要一个一个拿下来，一个一个解决的问题。山西的环境污染治理问题啊，个人认为至少还需要有几十年、几辈人的努力。我们觉得呀，要把这些真实的情况向美国。
Power generation capacity in the next few decades will increase, like what this chart shows, and China will be building about half of the world's new coal power generation plants.
Over 80% of the global warming emissions, nearly all the urban smog, nearly all the acid rain, the bulk of our nuclear waste problems, and a significant percentage of our airborne toxics are all due to energy. We cannot solve these problems without ushering new clean energy technologies into the global market. These are global problems. Fully 2 billion people on Earth still do not have access to electricity. The bulk of the rest of us are substantially dependent on fossil fuel. The United States, of course, is our globe's #1 carbon emitter. China is rapidly catching up and could surpass the United States sometime toward 2025. I would like to stress the importance of what we're doing over the next 2 days. That this group coming together is a key chemistry in trying to solve this challenge. Note that the Kyoto Protocol has just gone into force, and the pressure on these 2 countries will be mounting very quickly.
So it's my privilege, my pleasure, on behalf of the United States, on behalf of my boss, Secretary Powell, on behalf of the people of Wyoming and Jackson Hole, to have all of you join me in welcoming some very, very special guests. From Beijing, my good friend, Secretary General Shi, I want to welcome him. I want to welcome others from Beijing and the Shanxi province. What China and the United States have been discussing, thanks to the hospitality of the people of Jackson Hole, is looking at the issue of climate change and clean energy. Here with experts from Washington, from Wyoming, from Montana, from West Virginia, from Texas, San Francisco, Louisiana, to look at some very specific issues. So we gather in Jackson Hole, far from our capitals, utilizing what Steve Dorr talks about beautifully, the power of this place. I want to salute the Jackson Hole Center for Global Affairs for creating this watering hole where these 2 countries can come together and build a better. So join me in a toast to our visitors from China, Secretary General Shi, our friends from the Shanxi province. I want to toast to remind us all that we want to build a legacy of natural resources and more sustainable planet for our future. Thank you for joining me. The Secretary General would like to say something.
首先，我想今天非常高兴能够出现在一个非常温暖的、非常热情友好的这样一个环境下，来出席今天晚上这样一个早餐，非常优美、非常适合人类居住的这样一个非常好的地方。当然，我想有这样好的环境，那么除了有一个自然的环境以外，很重要的是靠了当地的政府、当地的人民，那么还有来自全美的很多人共同保持和发展的这样一个优美。世界上很多其他国家的人，包括中国人，也都希望有这样一个好的居住的生活。可是现在， 为具体实现这样一个目标，还有很多的问题。刚才加特勒先生特别谈到了环境的问题、能源的问题等等各种各样的问题。正因为如此，所以我们这么多人才聚集到怀俄明来，聚集到杰克森号来。我们这2天的讨论呢，非常有成效，而且和官方的在华盛顿的讨论是不同的。那里是一个官方的正式的讨论，这里是一个民间的、更加开放、更加自由的、更加这个充满友谊的。我们衷心的希望通过我们之间的合作，能够更好的为我们2国人民造福。我想特别要感谢的就是杰克森号的全球事务中心，在这方面起了很好的作用，提出了一个非常重要的、非常好的这样一个建议，开创了一个新的视野。
Returning the hospitality of the government of Shanxi province, the U.S. hosts arranged a trip to Yellowstone National Park. For Mr. Xu, this was an opportunity to experience the unique beauty of the region. The Tetons in Yellowstone, indeed the overall environment, cannot be protected without taking into account global as well as local realities and ways of addressing them. Jackson Hole has much at stake in the success of this process of global cooperation. Fortunately, it also has the opportunity to offer its magnificent setting to energize the work of the growing number of people who understand this challenge and are contributing their efforts to find solutions.